I'm here with Joan Sotkin, who is a podcast rock star. Joan has been rocking the podcast for many, many years, both as a host and we book her on interviews as a guest expert. And it's funny, I did a check-in call with Joan a couple months ago, and she's like, everything's great. I'd tell you if it wasn't. So she's so awesome. And she's really good at building relationships with hosts. So that's where she gets a lot of her clients. Joan, can you tell us how you rock the podcast, specifically as a guest expert? I want to hear how you take these interviews where you're a guest and use them to grow your business.
Well, it kind of happens because what happens is people hear me on on someone else's podcast, and my stuff is a little offbeat. I mean, I do money stuff and personal growth stuff, but it's different. And so people hear it and they go, oh, wow. And then they go listen to my podcast. And after a while, many people will call me for coaching or they'll sign up for one of my programs. And I find that this is, for me, one of the best ways for me to market, because it's the best way for me to explain what I do and what my material is all about.
Yeah, exactly. Because people, especially in a service where you're coaching people about their money, like I know that when you work with clients, you're often, opening up spreadsheets with them, getting deep into what's affecting their money mindset, how they feel about money, because you talk about your relationship with money, which goes back to childhood and how your family dealt with it. So that's some emotional stuff. So it makes sense that podcasting is great because people can really get to know you. And the one thing you just said was that you will go on podcasts and then people will listen to yours. And I did a video that I said, don't be a guest just because it's easier. Because a lot of people are saying, well, I'm not going to host a podcast. I'm going to be a guest. Same benefits, but I don't have to produce my own show. So, Joan, what do you think about that?
Not true. Well, for me, first of all, what the podcast does for me is far more than marketing. It's like my therapy. I do one interview a month and once a week I do an interview, and once a week I talk by myself. I'm a talker. I love to talk, and I've got a lot to say, and I've always loved to share what I learn with other people. So it gives me a place to kind of get the stuff out of my head and out there. And when I hear myself talking about something, it gives me insight into what I'm actually doing. So it's really my coach, my therapy is I'm talking to myself, but it works. And I love interviewing the experts that I talk to. I meet people who I would never get to talk to if I didn't say I have a podcast. Yeah. And also, it helps me with joint ventures. I'm coming out with a new book now, The Search for Connection, which is my journey when I gave away everything I owned and wandered for quite a long time. And there have been a number of hosts who have shown an interest in what I'm talking about. And so we're going to create joint ventures with my book. So the podcast works two ways. One, it gets me out there, gets me known, and it helps me get my message out there. I mean, it's really an important part of what I do.
Now, people, they all want to know how to, I talk so much about building relationships with the host and your guests, and I often reference you because you do those joint ventures. Can you give us like a quick blueprint when you're interviewed on a podcast, you meet that host for the first time, they express interest in your book, how do you then take that relationship and have a joint venture, which leads to more sales for you? I mean, are you doing webinars with them? Can you just tell people, how does that actually work?
Well, first of all, I don't do it with everyone. Every once in a while, I have an interview and it really clicks. And so very often we'll set up just a chat every couple of weeks, because I don't like to just say, hi, how are you? Let's do a JV. That's, need a little more foreplay. So I like to build relationships. And if it works, then it's just kind of a natural thing for us to decide to do a joint venture. I have done a couple of joint ventures where we do a webinar together, and I'm working on one now. And it's interesting. I'm planning a webinar with someone who teaches people how to do online courses. And I've been doing some online courses. And in the process of our conversations, we've both taken our own work to a different level. Because when you're talking to someone with this kind of interest, it just develops you as people. And I've done joint ventures with people for their product, and it was pretty cut and dry. Here's the emails you're going to send out, and it was kind of left me with a little empty feeling. Even though I made money from it, I didn't feel closer to that person. And I can't do this with everybody. I'm pretty good at talking to anybody. It's just something I do. But there's that little bit of connection that you need to make it really work, so that it's satisfying. I don't work just to make money. I get my satisfaction from my business. It has to feel good in my heart. And so when I work with other people, that has to feel good in my heart too.
That's so cool. So the different kinds of joint ventures, sometimes there's webinars where they'll host it to their list and then you'll be the featured guest. And then if people sign up, then they get a commission for hosting it. Is that the one? Yeah. Is that the model that you usually do?
Well, I don't do that many of them. Right now, I'm going to do more with this book I'm coming out with, where there's a couple of people in the financial world and business coaches, and the material I do is kind of an add-on to what other people are doing. So, but this book, I've been on a couple of interviews. You guys helped me get on with John Lee Dumas and people of that ilk. And when I tell the story about when I gave everything away and went wandering, they all go, wow, how did you do that? Yeah. Most natural thing in the world to me. I couldn't think of anything else to do. And I happen to have kept a diary at a glance for 10 years. So I could put the story back together again. And so the people who went, wow, how did you do that? I'm going to ask them if they want to do a joint venture. They know that I'm writing a book. They've expressed an interest. So as I said, it's not a cold thing where you send out a letter and say, you know, I get all these invitations to be on summits all the time.
Right.
And I've been on quite a few, and I pretty much say no now.
Right.
Because I'd rather use my list for my promotions. Right. And I haven't found that much of a benefit of going on other people's summits. It's really a benefit to them to get a whole lot of new email people on their list.
I've been asked to be on summits, and they'll say, like, we'd love to have you on. We'd love for you to be a speaker. And then I'm like, what are the requirements? Well, we need you to email your list. You need to have 5,000 people. I'm like, then I don't qualify. I don't have 5,000 people on my list, and I'm not a big fan of summits. But I think that you're right. When you click with somebody, it has to be more for people are like, oh, you could make so much money doing it. It's like, well, that's not why I'm doing this. You know what I mean?
Right. And there's an awful lot of, and you can make so much doing it online about a lot of things.
Right.
And that's one of my buttons, is that it's not true. I've been trying different ways of making money because I like to teach people what I learned. So I've done online courses, Amazon FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. I'm now putting together an Etsy store. I'm doing Kindle books. I want to see what it's really like. And like I did 2 courses and posted them on a site where they have 10 million people on the site and they'll market it for you. Well, the first month I did very well marketing to my list. The second month, I didn't do any marketing. There was a little crossover from my list. And now if I don't do any marketing for them, I get 1 or 2 sales a month. So I said, well, if I'm going to do my own marketing, I might as well go on a platform like Thinkific.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to give away. And they're always the Udemy is always coming up with these coupons and sales. So you have to really be able to discriminate as to what you're going to do to build your business.
Yeah.
Because anyone who tells you in this day and age that it's easy to make money online is lying.
Yeah.
It's just a lie. Yeah. I've been doing business online for 21 years. I started doing teleclasses in 2003. And it used to be easy to make money online when there weren't a billion and more sites, right?
Yeah.
So now everybody's going, I want your money. I want your money. And I just can't play that game. It's like, I'll tell you who I am, and I'll open my heart to receive and do all the things you're supposed to do to get your head in the right place. And now I want to really teach people how to rewire their brains for prosperity. I'm getting very into brain science, because that's really what it's all about. But you have to stop buying into all this sales stuff about how much money you're going to make so easily. It's not easy. That's why I have people like you helping me out, because there's just so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
And every day at 4:00, I stop working and I go to the dog park and I walk my dog. So I have to live my life as well as do my business. And if you think it's easy, and with podcasting, a lot of people start a podcast. I heard a figure once that the average podcast lasts for 7 episodes. So you have to be careful about going on podcasts. How long have they been there?
Yeah.
And I've been doing this one since 2013. So I'm not going. I love to talk. Why would I go away?
I can't, Joan. I was just thinking, I at least 2 come to my mind, interviews that I've done on other shows that never saw the light of day because they just never launched. I mean, one guy just recently, I realized I did this interview and he never published the episode. He just stopped after like 3 or 4 episodes. So yeah, it's all about consistency, commitment, keeping it going for a long time. It's one of the things we look for is, how long has the person been podcasting, because so many people quit. Well, I could keep you all day. I wanted to keep these videos short, but you're a huge inspiration. You just, what you've done really speaks to the importance of commitment. You've been a guest expert client of ours for at least 2 years,
2
something
years.
like that.
Yeah.
And you stick with it, and you just know the strategy of building these relationships, and it's not with everyone, but when you click with somebody, you set up those follow-up calls, you build that relationship, and when there's a way to work together, you both grow your businesses, which is so, so great. Where can people listen to your podcast and connect with you?
ProsperityPlace.com is the place to find me.
Thanks, Joan.
My pleasure.